the IATF 16949 podcast, where we talk about all things automotive. Find us on our channel at youtube.com/IATF 16949 auditing, or visit our website at www.iatfglobaloversight.org. This is the IATF 16949 podcast.
So, welcome to this IATF 16949 update podcast as part of the IAOB SMMT YouTube channel. And I'm delighted to be here in Detroit with Devon Gage. Good morning, Paul. Devon. And with Niall Keeley.
Hi, Paul. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's a rare event that we're actually face to face with each other. So we thought we would take this opportunity to have an update on things going on within the IATF 16949 scheme. Mm-hmm. So now I believe that we've just passed 100,000 certificates.
We have, Paul. It's a key milestone in the IATF journey. So to hit 100,000 certificates is a massive thing, and it's important. I think the IATF are keen to recognise that. So you'll see some communication on the subject, stakeholder communique, and some imagery, but it's a really important milestone. And I guess the one that we haven't really mentioned is the 25 years as well. So IATF have been operating for 25 years, so that coupled with the 100,000 certificates is definitely a great reason for celebration.
Yeah, and Devon, within that 100,000 then, what is that counting? What's included in that 100,000?
Yeah, so the 100,000 counts all current certificates. So either issued or suspended status. Canceled, withdrawn are not included in that count. So it's just active certificates.
Right, and now then remote support locations, how do they appear? Do they appear in that
They
number?
do not appear. So as Devon said, the count is for the individual manufacturing locations. That's the certificate is assigned to the manufacturing site. Often manufacturing sites rely on support being provided from what we call remote support locations. Those remote support locations don't have a certificate in their own right. They're part of the manufacturing site certificate. So if you've got an extended manufacturing site or a remote support location providing support into your manufacturing site, they're not included or counted separately. It's just the manufacturing site.
So actually, a lot more places get visited by auditors, but the 100,000 is where value-added manufacturing occurs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's interesting. And we're now then 3 months in, really, to audits being done aligned with Rule 6 edition. No, how has that gone, the transition? Because obviously it's a big step, changing the rules. And I think this is one of the first times the rules have been changed without the standard changing. Yeah. I think normally the rules updates have been aligned with the standard changing. Yeah. How's the first 3 months been?
Again, I think it's early days, as you say, but there's no doubt there's some challenging aspects within Rule 6 for certification bodies. And again, as we all know, there are impacts on clients. But I think broadly speaking, it's been a sort of fairly well-received transition. Obviously, from an oversight point of view, we spend a lot of our time doing witness audits and office assessments. That will give us a real sense of how the rules are being implemented, and obviously that picture will be clearer as the year goes on. But I think for me, initial feedback is sort of fairly good.
Yeah. And am I right in thinking that the office assessments and witness audits, there's not been that many in the first quarter?
That is correct.
That was a conscious decision, I think, from IATF.
Yeah, just
to let things bed in. And particularly, I guess, things like the audit planning requirement, that kicked in at the beginning of the year. So actually, some of the early audits done in this year probably wouldn't have been 100% compliant with Rule 6 because the planning would have been done under Rules 5.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And Devon, I know there's recently been an IATF meeting. Is there likely to be any new sanction interpretations?
Yeah, Paul. There will be 2 new sanction interpretations coming out for Rule 6. The first one is to clarify when the central location within a corporate scheme should be audited. It wasn't as clearly written as the IATF had hoped when we published Rule 6. So we just went and added in there 5.5.1F, which states central locations within a corporate scheme shall be audited annually, i.e. every 12 months, plus or minus the 3 months.
Right. And now then, the central location, that could be standalone, or it actually could be in a plant, couldn't it? Evaluated site.
It absolutely could be. So in a way, if it's in a plant, it's going to be audited annually anyway, because the site has to be audited annually. The reason for the SI is much more where it's located in a standalone remote support location, that without that SI would allow for it to be audited once every 2 years. And I think IATF, from a risk management point of view, felt it was important to audit those central locations. This is very specifically a corporate scheme structure where there's a central location supporting the quality management system within the corporate scheme, that those locations needed to be audited annually.
Yeah, and can any of those audits then be done remotely? Is it the same as other standalones, that they could be done at alternative visits?
Exactly the same as standalone remote support locations. So in theory, again, there's the table, isn't there, in Annex 2 that identifies those processes that can be subject to a remote audit. So as long as
it meets that criteria.
Standalone meets that criteria, then they can be subject to remote audit.
Okay, so that one is very specific only to corporate scheme clients.
Correct.
So auditors for sites, they get half a day allocated to do the audit planning activity. I think there's been some confusion about remote support locations, which could range from a 3-person sales office to a 500-man design centre. Do we have to always add half a day to those standalone support locations?
We do not. And again, this is a kind of important, I suppose, clarification. You're right, Rule 6 on publication said every audit will be subject to at least half a day audit planning. What the sanction interpretation will do is it will clarify that for standalone remote support locations, and for special audits, the 0.5, the half-day planning is not mandatory. Having said that, audit planning and preparation is still mandatory, but the amount of time is based on risk in terms of what's happening at that standalone remote support location and the scope of it. And that, so I think that provides some clarification to organisations and to certification bodies. To your point, it could be a very small, let's say a 3-person sales office that in theory would be subject to more audit planning than audit time potentially, and that doesn't make sense. But there'll be other standalone remote support locations with thousands of people doing extremely complicated activities.
Design activities, for example.
Exactly, and that type of organisation, the risk would be much higher, and the amount of audit planning time would reflect that. But it's given responsibility, I guess, to the certification body to make that decision for those standalone remote support locations and special audits to determine how much audit planning time.
No, I think that's a very common sense approach. There's a few auditor discussion groups around, and I know one of the things that keeps coming up is about eligibility for IATF certification. One specific example I've seen today is about trailers that get attached to trucks. Eligible or not eligible?
Eligible. And in a way, this is one of the big changes probably from Rules 5 to Rule 6, which really talks about any homologated or type approved product being used on the road. And a trailer is obviously used on the road, and it will have what we call type approval to be able to be used on the road. And it's, it makes logical sense that I think under Rules 5th, you could, the tractor unit, the front end of the truck is eligible, but the trailer wasn't. Yeah. Rule 6 now brings the trailer in as being eligible. It's an important, logical, I would say, step.
Yeah, and does there need to be any link to an OEM? Because again, one of the things coming in a discussion group is people are saying it is eligible, but only if it's to an OEM approved specification. My view is I don't think it has to be to an OEM spec, as long as you said, it's licensed to be used on the road in the particular country that it's being used. Yeah. Am I right?
And it is worth saying, again, we've probably said it before, but Rule 6 is bringing in road-going vehicles, so vehicles being used on the roads, a trailer being part of a vehicle being used on the road.
Yeah.
Upfitting of vans to be used on the road, again, that upfitting process becomes eligible. So it's a big shift from the vehicle maker and it's been expanded not just to the vehicle maker, but anything else that is done to the vehicle to enable it to be used on the road.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I understand that. One of the things I know is very strong in IATF is the focus on ethics. Yeah? And one of the questions that has come up, that if an auditor is working for a certification body, maybe as a contract auditor, but they have their own consultancy business, can they do training and consultancy for any of that certification body's IATF clients if they're not involved in the audit?
So no, they cannot do any type of consultancy if they belong to a CV or employed by a CV that has that company as an IATF. They can't do any quality management consulting.
Right, and that would apply also now then to the auditors that are contracted with multiple certification bodies.
Yeah.
That they couldn't do any quality management system training or consultancy on site for any of those CB clients that they're contracted with that certification body.
Yeah. And to be honest, this isn't really a new rule. I think it's probably clearer in Rule 6, but the intent has always been there that if you're a third-party auditor working for one or more certification bodies, you cannot get involved in doing any training or consulting, again, quality management system related to any of the clients of those certification bodies that you are sponsored by. I think what Rule 6 does is it really underlines where an auditor, let's say, has their own separate business. They do some auditing, but they also have, let's say, a training business.
Yeah.
That training business cannot do any work with clients of the CB that the auditor that either owns or works for that training business.
Yeah. And I think that is very well aligned with the ethics policy that has been defined by IATF. Yeah. So I think it just needed a bit of clarification, which I think you guys have done there. Devon, customer specific requirements. Have there been any recent updates?
There's been a few, actually quite a few.
Give us a couple of examples of things that have changed since we had the last discussion.
Yeah, so OEMs are constantly updating the customer specific requirements. You can go on IATFglobaloversight.com and find out the most recent customer specific requirements. One of the most recent ones we just launched.
Yeah, IATFglobaloversight.org, isn't it?
.org, excuse me.
Yeah.
Renault Group just updated their customer specific requirements effective of March 14th of this year.
Yeah.
And then before that, Stellantis updated theirs, Volvo updated theirs, GM updated theirs, and Ford updated theirs. That all happened this year.
Yeah. So that, I think, particularly for the first tier suppliers, is a challenge then, because they need to demonstrate they have an effective process. One, to know that what's changed, and two, then to review and implement any changes.
Yeah.
So I think, for the listeners, particularly those of you working in the supply chain,
Yeah.
it's really important to subscribe.
Yeah.
So you get automatic notification of those updates.
And that subscribing is a very simple process. Just enter your email address on the front page of the website, and it will just automatically alert you to any updates, whether they're communiques, CSRs, whatever the update is, you'll automatically get notified.
So let's come back closer to home in terms of the YouTube channel that is sponsored by IAOB and SMMT. What are the plans for this year? Is there a commitment to keep the channel going? And is there any filming planned?
Absolutely. So the commitment is there to keep the channel going. We rely obviously on feedback. So if anyone listening, viewing has got any comments or questions, please just let us know. Ask in the comments, and we will pick that up going forward and provide you some responses to those questions. But there's a series of new films.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually two big things coming up soon. There'll be filming a series over in Portugal where we'll be visiting some interesting suppliers that we haven't done before. So one's a steel supplier, one's a printed circuit board, and the third one I have to double check. I think it's an assembler, but
So we're visiting a new country.
Yeah,
we've not done a YouTube in Portugal before, so it'd be good to involve them in the process. And I guess we'll take this opportunity that if we have certified companies in other countries, then we're more than willing to hear from you. If you're willing for us to visit you, we would love that opportunity.
Absolutely. Please let us know your contact information. We'll get back with you as soon as possible.
Yeah. And now I believe there is a plan for a live stream coming up.
Yeah, we've done this once before, and we think it was fairly successful. So this will be an opportunity for us to live stream content and respond in real time to any kind of questions and comments that come in. So we haven't got a time exactly set for it, but it will be coming up soon. Look, watch out for it.
Watch this space, everybody. And for those of you who haven't already, we would strongly suggest that you subscribe to the IAOB SMMT YouTube channel because it's great, one, to know that we have people that are interested in keeping the channel going, but also we always welcome any comments that people have got. So please do subscribe, because that helps the justification to keep the channel going. So I think let's conclude this short podcast. Thanks everybody for listening to us. We've got an interesting week's meeting coming up here in Detroit. And we look forward to the live stream where we can get into far more detail on some of the questions that you have, either related to the rules or related to the overall IATF scheme. So thank you, Niall. Thank you, Devon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
And look forward to seeing everybody again soon.
The IATF 16949 podcast, where we talk about all things automotive. Find us on our channel at youtube.com/IATF 16949 auditing, or visit our website at www.iatfglobaloversight.org. This is the IATF 16949 podcast.